When you're with someone that's critically ill or seriously injured, every minute you wait for medical aid to arrive can feel like an hour. Which is why a helicopter like this can be one of the most beautiful sights in the world. It certainly was for me when I was a copper. This is the Yorkshire Air Ambulance, and their business is saving lives. From the Dales to the big cities of Leeds and Sheffield, patients in the UK's biggest county are never more than 10 minutes from a hospital, thanks to this 150-mile-an-hour lifesaver. And every day brings a new life or death emergency for its team of flying paramedics. 2 helicopters, 4 paramedics, 5 million patients. Today on Helicopter Heroes, a car crash leaves the paramedics with a terrible dilemma. 2 patients, but there's only room for 1 in the helicopter.
Powder was unconscious with no pulse when they arrived.
An overheating truck is leaking fuel.
It might blow, so we've just got to get the patient loaded and actually get out of the way.
Helimed 99 races the setting sun to get a badly injured biker to hospital.
It's 10 to 4, hopefully back to base before dark.
And paramedic Pat turns shepherd to clear the chopper for takeoff.
Year-round, Yorkshire's flying paramedics go to more road accidents than any other incidents. It's never easy, but some emergencies leave the team with some awful decisions to have to make.
It's a weekend in the Pennines and the local roads have claimed yet more victims.
What is it, Pete?
RTC, I think 4 vehicles, 1 trapped.
On the M62? No, it's just over the back junction 25.
Helimed 98's been scrambled to a multiple shunt, and it sounds like a bad one.
The initial reports is 4 vehicle RTC, which we've got quite a number of casualties. We've also got 1 person that's trapped, so I think we'll possibly be looking at the trapped patient when we get there.
On a back road near Huddersfield, a van and car have crashed head-on.
It's a big fence and it looks quite a dip as well.
So you're on the right of the road as we look at it, or the left? I think there's a fence on the left side. But just coming down this side too.
Paramedics Paul Bradbury and Pete Balance will be working with an old friend. Local flying doctor Jez Pennell often flies with them.
Front one's trapped by the legs. Right, conscious and talking. Conscious, talking, but a bit bad. Righty-ho.
A young lassie back there.
Yeah.
And we've got this one here, bad facial injury. She's got chest problems, and her legs is trapped at the moment.
20 minutes ago, Ebony Clements was driving friend Gemma Carver to see her new home. Now they're trapped in the wreckage of her Fiat hatchback.
I'm complaining of loads of back pain, numbness in her legs. Yeah.
The one in the front is probably the worst. So she's got a major face injury. She's well trapped. She apparently was unconscious with no pulse when they arrived.
Just watch your vitalisers, just let Doc come through and give her something.
Just give her a bit of ketamine.
A bandage on you.
Ebony's bleeding heavily. She needs urgent hospital treatment, but she's still trapped behind the wheel. And Dr. Jez is worried.
My concern is that she's been unconscious and she's going to need it. I don't really want to have to intubate at the roadside because it's potentially a difficult airway.
Yeah.
And she's potentially, but if we didn't, she potentially could go off in the helicopter because she could get her off full of blood. So let's get her out and have a look at her when she's out.
No worries.
Oh, my legs.
Alright, that's really good, is that? Really good, is that?
Okay, relax first.
In the back of the car, Gemma's case is also causing concern. Worryingly, she's got little sensation in her legs.
We need to have a look at her. She's potentially got a spinal injury. Apparently can't feel anything in her legs.
Right.
So we'll have a look at her, see what we think. We'll make a decision.
All right.
It's time to move both patients. Only when Gemma's on a special spinal stretcher will they be able to tell exactly where the feeling in her legs stops. The signs aren't good.
No feeling whatsoever from
There's no Babinski in the feet either. Rubber feet, there's no at all.
Dr. Jez has a dilemma. 2 seriously injured patients, and only one helicopter.
The young lady in the front who's got quite a bad facial injury, but obviously we're not always taught to carry the ones with the worst looking injuries.
Which of the girls is in most need of an airlift? It's a decision that can mean a difference between life or death. Coming up on Helicopter Heroes.
We're more likely to take this lady.
The team make their decision. One of the girls is prepared for her airlift. A biker with head injuries desperately needs help, but the chopper can't find him.
Might be that crossroads there somewhere. It's the only open bit, isn't it?
And paramedic Pat chases off some local sightseers.
When you're involved in a serious accident, one move can mean the difference between a good recovery and a long-term disability. That's why paramedics normally take extreme care with their patients. But sometimes they have to take a risk to save a life.
A wagon had left the M62 Juxport towards the Normanton. Apparently hit a tree. Then second reports have come in saying that a female's laid out in the road a distance away.
The accident sounds serious. Then there's an update from their control room.
Element 99, just to update you, the RTA involving 5 vehicles, it's query how many patients over.
Yeah, Roger, thanks for that. ETA is just a couple of minutes over.
Element 99, further update, there's a male trapped in a lorry that's on fire, over.
Just got further update that there's a male trapped in a lorry at this incident, that the lorry is on fire. I don't believe the fire service are on scene, so obviously safety is of paramount importance until they actually get there. So we'll just assess the situation when we arrive.
It's rush hour and the traffic is already backing up from the incident.
I think we're on HGV in the bushes.
Yeah, look like it,
fire
didn't
engine, yeah.
Just looks like it's missed turning, yeah, it's in back at bush there, look.
Yeah.
This is a busy intersection off the M62 Trans-Pennine motorway.
Okay, you are clear on the left now, yeah,
Helimed 99 must touch down on an overgrown patch of waste ground next to the carriageway, and paramedic Tony is the pilot's rear view mirror.
Yeah, we'll let you go look me anyway. Okay.
The lorry has left the road and hit a tree.
The gentleman's come off the slip road and his brakes have failed. He's come straight across and run into these trees that are under here, and we think he's got chest injuries. He's with the ambulance at the moment. The problem we've got now is because of the damage caused to the vehicle, they're unable to turn the engine off.
The trouble is, fuel is leaking from its ruptured fuel tank and the engine is overheating.
20 years I've been in this job and it's the first time I've come across all this. Never seen anything like it.
The situation has forced the first paramedics on the scene to take desperate measures to save the driver.
We've had to extricate him without any ceasefire protection. It was just a case of it was starting to smoke, so we lifted him. GCS 15, everybody else seems stable. We've got 2 more walking wounded that I've got a vehicle for.
There's gridlock around the incident. The patient will have to go by air.
Did you have a seatbelt on?
40-year-old lorry driver Tony Taylor has a collapsed lung and could have other injuries. In other circumstances, he would have been immobilised to protect his spine before being carefully carried from his cab.
We had to take his injuries into consideration, but basically we had to get him out just in case it caught fire. Not ideal, but we've got him out.
He's got quite severe chest pains, no obvious chest injuries. In lieu of what's happened, he could have some air escaping from his lungs, which is our main concern.
The truck's engine is still revving and firefighters are standing by, but the driver needs hospital care, even if that means touching down on the only suitable landing pad, a lawn only metres from the overheating lorry.
We're just going to reposition the aircraft into the back field, which is a lot closer than where we are now. Take the patient down to Pinderfields Hospital. And the fire service can't stop it revving out, so we've got a hazard that it might blow, so we've just got to get the patient loaded and actually get out of the way.
The helicopter's going to lift from where it is. This is a better location to get the patient onto the aircraft. We're going to be approaching here and I'll hopefully guide the aircraft onto this bit of grass. Fingers crossed.
Paramedic Lee and Helimed 99 are about to take off for what could turn out to be a hazardous landing. Coming up on Helicopter Heroes, can pilot Steve get the trucker to safety before the lorry blows?
Just get ready now to accept the patient onto the aircraft.
Dr. Jez decides which of 2 patients trapped in their car gets a flight to hospital.
She's got no sensation below her waist.
And up in the hills, Helimed 99 picks up the victim of a hiking accident.
Nice to be able to get the helicopter down.
Helimed 99's crew are trained aviators as well as paramedics, and it's their job to find the patients they treat. But sometimes navigating at 150 miles an hour is harder than you'd think.
It's late afternoon and Helimed 99 is on its way to a country road in North Yorkshire.
We've got reports that the motorcyclist is unconscious. It is quite a notorious area for ourselves, that area in North Yorkshire. There are motorcycle groups in that area that do raise quite a lot of money for the air ambulance, so we're always quite grateful to them.
It's paramedic Simon Kavanagh's job to find the biker. His navigation will only be as good as the information given by a 999 caller.
Might be that crossroads there somewhere. It's the only open bit, isn't it? Yeah, I just think that's RRV down there going to it. Where's it going? Yeah, spin it around that way then something.
But there's no sign of the crash at the grid reference they've been given.
Do you want to give him a shout sign to see if you've got an better update for the location?
Yeah. Wait for control from Helimed 99. We've covered the road from Birkin to Brotherton and back again. We can't find any trace of the incident. Do you have any update of a location, please, over?
The crew know only too well that the information given by a 999 caller can be unreliable. Mistakes are often made in the stressful aftermath of an accident, and delays can cost lives.
Helimed 99 from Wheelsville Control. No further information, over.
Wait for control from Helimed 99. Roger, thank you.
They've been searching for 10 minutes now, and there's no sign of the casualty. But what's worrying pilot Steve Cobb is that it's now getting late. By law, Helimed 99 must be on the ground back at base in little more than an hour.
I'm a bit lost now, where have I got to?
Their colleagues on the ground are having the same trouble. Back at base, dispatcher Dave Gardner turns detective and calls back the 999 caller.
They're about 5 miles out, location was wrong. The helicopter's there at the moment, now heading towards the A63, and I've given them a new grid reference roughly of that roundabout, so they should be able to see it from there.
At last, Paul spots the accident scene.
Yeah, I've got it, Steve, on the nose, over the wires, yeah, straight down there, mate, you can just see the flashing blue light.
Pilot Steve Cobb drops his life-saving team within yards of their patient. The biker's in a bad way. He's been thrown down a roadside embankment.
Hello, Matt. We're the air ambulance crew. What we're going to do, we're going to get this helmet off you, roll you on your back and put a collar on, alright?
Matt, keep still.
Biker Matthew Wood has a head injury, and it could be serious. He was out for an afternoon spin with some mates when he came off on a sweeping bend. Matthew was unconscious for 20 minutes.
We were all coming down all together. Matt were in front. I was watching myself on what I was doing. Next thing, I saw Matt going into the field. It was quick as that was it. I didn't know why it happened, no idea. It just went.
Does it hurt your chest? It does.
Matthew's lapsing in and out of consciousness. Apart from a few cuts and bruises, they can't find any obvious injury, but he's clearly taken a major impact to his head.
So we're going to see if we can still land at LGI, which is obviously the head injury unit for this area. If we can land there, we'll bomb off to LGI, which will take us about 7 or 8 minutes. He's quite confused and combative with us at the moment. Hopefully try and calm him down a little bit, and so we'll take him to LGI.
There's no time to waste. Helimed 99 can't land at Leeds General Infirmary's rooftop landing pad much after sunset, and the clock is ticking. The shadows are lengthening and Captain Steve Cobb's involved in a race against the setting sun to get Matthew to specialist care.
At the moment it's 10 to 4, so we should be there in about 10 minutes time, which will be 4 o'clock, it should all be well away for about 20 past, and hopefully back to base before dark. It's civil aviation authority regulations that we have to be on the ground with this type of aircraft, with this equipment, at latest half an hour after sunset.
No, all his jobs seem okay. He seems to be quite stable. He's still a bit drowsy. He's very confused, so he can't pinpoint any other injuries that he might have. And his pulse is okay. It's quite steady. So I don't think he's bleeding internally anyway. They're going to have to do x-rays and scans and things. You can't tell us specifically what's wrong with him. So that's why we're taking the precaution of strapping him down and immobilising him completely.
Matthew will have no memory of his flight to hospital, but pilot Steve won't forget it. As well as the setting sun, the booming Leeds skyline presents one more hazard for Helimed 99's pilot.
See if we can get away through all the cranes.
Tower cranes litter his final approach.
It's everywhere, isn't it? Like Manhattan. You've got 2 green cranes just to your right, 1 o'clock. And at your side? It's not quite close enough, I think, but it's quite above at the moment. Okay. Pad is clear.
It's a tricky landing, but one that's given Matthew the best chance of recovery from what will turn out to be a significant brain injury. The good news for him is that he's recovering well. And the good news for Helimed 99 is that Steve makes it back to base with a few minutes to spare. Speed is what makes the air ambulance special, but they like to keep a little bit in reserve. Coming up, a trucker needs an urgent flight to hospital, but his lorry could be about to blow.
We've just got to get the patient loaded and actually get out of the way.
And an injured walker's been hurt in the hills.
It was either that way or a helicopter.
But first, back in West Yorkshire, Dr. Jez Pinnell and the team are trying to free the victims of a serious road accident, and they've got an awful dilemma to deal with.
On a back road near Huddersfield, 2 friends are lying badly injured after a head-on smash. Ebony Clements was driving Gemma Carver to show off her new home. Now Gemma has a serious spinal injury, and Ebony has a wound from her forehead to the end of her nose. Only one of the girls can fly in Helimed 98, and the choice is down to Dr. Jez Pinnell.
We're more likely to take this lady. A little bit worried about her having that skin flap filling up with blood when she's laid on her bike.
Right, we're taking girl in front. She's got quite a lot of max facts. Looks really bad at facial injuries, but Jez is not too bothered about. It's not life-threatening. The lady in the back, she's got no sensation below her waist, so we are suspecting quite a severe spinal injury. So hence LGI.
But the crew of Helimed 98 face a serious hurdle. They had to land behind a steel security fence. The 2 paramedics managed to squeeze through a gap left by local vandals. But it's too small for Gemma and the stretcher, and that's where the fire brigade come in.
We've got a helicopter in field. Is there any chance you guys can just take us bottom at gate? It's a fence post like this. Top half sort of come away. Yeah. Any chance you can take us bottom part off so we can get back through, lads, please?
At last, Gemma's on her way to specialist care. She's going to be flown direct to Leeds General Infirmary while friend Ebony goes by road to a plastic surgery unit. And the firemen have done their job just in time.
The fire brigades have now gone down with their cutting equipment and have made us quite a large hole to move the patient through, which is ideal.
But it's the extent of Gemma's spinal injury that's worrying paramedics Pete and Paul.
You can remember everything that's happened today. It's just that pain you've got in your lower back. And you've got that numb sensation in your legs from your waist down, yeah? Can you wriggle your toes for me, Gemma?
I'm wiggling them.
You're wiggling them, all right, thank you.
They're not ready to share the news with the patient yet, but Gemma's already showing symptoms of paralysis below her waist. The noise of the engines means Gemma's unable to hear Pete's assessment of her condition.
She's complaining of severe lower back pain, and she's got a loss of sensation of movement below her waist. So obviously that's quite worrying. It needs to be checked out fully to find out why she's got that. The car was very badly damaged, and hopefully it's just a case that she's been thrown forward. It appears to be an isolated back injury.
It's only a 10-minute flight to the trauma centre where Gemma will find out the extent of the damage to her spine. For someone with her injuries, this is the best way to travel. It's smooth and fast. But it's going to be a tense few days for Gemma and her family. Ebony too will have to wait to see how her face will heal. Coming up, will Gemma ever walk again? And can plastic surgery save Ebony's face from permanent disfigurement?
What I've got is nothing compared to what she's going to be going through.
And HeliMed 99 drops into a village cricket pitch with a walker whose country stroll ended in agony.
When the air ambulance touches down, the pilot has to look out for the safety of his crew and their patient, but sometimes saving lives means taking a carefully calculated risk.
HeliMed 99's been called out to a rush hour crash in West Yorkshire. A lorry has hit a tree and is in danger of catching fire. Fuel is leaking from a burst tank and firefighters can't stop its overheating engine. Paramedics had to drag the driver to safety.
We had to take his injuries into consideration, but basically we had to get him out just in case it caught fire. Not ideal, but we've got him out.
The trucker has a punctured lung and needs to be in hospital. But the only way to get him there is to land HeliMed 99 within metres of the truck. It's paramedic Tony's job to marshal the chopper into a very tight spot.
Quite a few hazards we need to look out for, especially the trees and the light stanchions. But we've also got to take into account the wind. Ideally, he wants to land into wind. So hopefully this will be a decent place for him. We'll soon find out.
For pilot Steve Cobb, it's been a challenge, but that's nothing compared with the takeoff.
It's not too bad. It's nice and easy to get in with 2 people on board, but going out with 5 on board will be a little bit tighter. So it's quite warm today, we're quite heavy, and apparently the patient's quite large as well.
Just the other side of the tree line, firefighters still haven't managed to stop the truck's engine, and fuel is continuing to leak. HeliMed 99's crew don't want to hang around.
Just get ready now to accept the patient onto the aircraft, and then we'll be away very shortly.
Trucker Tony Taylor's in agony from a punctured lung. He's now strapped into a rigid stretcher that protects his neck and spine.
Tony, can I just confirm he's got reduced air entry right side?
That's affirmative.
Got reduced air entry on his right side of his chest.
But no one knows what damage, if any, the rapid rescue from his overheating lorry could have caused. It will take a thorough check-up at Pinderfields Hospital to rule out more serious injuries.
You alright? Hopefully the pain will be a bit easier soon. We're giving you quite a lot of painkiller now.
Arm across your tummy.
How's your
Across
breathing?
your tummy. Just lay it down his side then, that's great.
How's your breathing feeling
Doing absolutely fine.
Painful.
Ambulance officer Graham Butterworth could have saved Tony's life by rapidly extricating him from his cab. Now he too must battle his way through the rush hour traffic to find out his patient's condition.
He didn't particularly want to move because of pain in his chest. He was a genuinely big lad, so there were obviously weight issues and the very unceremonious way we got him out of the cab. Like I say, it's just a balancing act, and we were lucky this time it worked. I certainly don't think it will prove fatal, but I'm sure he'll be fine.
It took just 5 minutes to get Tony to specialist care at Pinderfields Hospital. X-rays revealed that the impact had not only collapsed his lung, but he had broken several ribs as well. But he was going to get better, thanks to the paramedics' swift thinking. When your livelihood is driving lorries, an accident like this can end your career. Getting back behind the wheel of a 10-ton truck after a smash has nearly taken your life is hard. Paramedic Graham used to fly in Helimed 99, but a back injury grounded him. Today, he's come to a lorry stop near Castleford to meet a trucker who owes him a lot.
Now then, mate, how you doing?
Oh, yes.
You all right?
Me, yeah. Sound,
Lucky man.
Yeah.
Shall we get a cuppa?
Yeah, sounds right.
Tony remembers very little of the accident, and piecing it together with Graham's help is helping him get over it.
I still come to the same junction, and the first thing I do before I even indicate is make sure my brakes there.
Work, yeah.
You know, so
For Graham, it's an opportunity to explain why he had to drag him out of his wagon so quickly.
And when I sort of got to the side of your wagon where you were, all I could see was smoke and sparks out of front edge. I thought, this is going to go. Basically, the dilemma was, do we drag him out and risk injuring him further, or do we try and stabilise him and risk the actual engine catching fire? So really, in a way, it's not really a dilemma. We had to do what we did, and we basically just dragged him out.
I don't think without area I wouldn't be here to tell the tale. He got me out so quick and away from, because he was thought the vehicle was going to go up on flames. So it's quite amazing.
Graham's quick thinking got Tony out of his overheating truck and on his way to the medical care he needed, fast.
Okay, Steve.
And it's no wonder Tony is very grateful. He had an important appointment to keep. Just a few weeks after he left hospital, he got married.
Obviously, the care that you give me, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm my wife, and you saved my life, and I thank you for that.
Coming up on Helicopter Heroes, we catch up with car crash victims Gemma and Ebony as they recover from their terrible accident.
The type of person I am, I can't stay angry with anybody.
Yorkshire's flying paramedics get a bird's eye view of some of England's most stunning countryside. The dales and moors are where the speed of the helicopter comes into its own.
It's a sunny day in the Peak District and paramedic Lee Davidson is stretching his legs with some friends after a week in the air. He's one of millions of ramblers keen on tramping the hills of the Pennines.
It's a good social type of event, gets you out in the fresh air, keeps you fit, and it's just an all-round nice day. And you get great views and be able to look out and enjoy the view and everything. It's great.
But some of the walkers Lee and his colleagues come across are not enjoying their days out. Hiking provides dozens of patients every year for the Yorkshire Air Ambulance. On the edge of the rugged Derbyshire Peak Park, the unforgiving local terrain has claimed another victim. In the days before mobile phones, Walker Ann Jackson could have lain for hours before help arrived. Not anymore. Paramedic Darren Axe doesn't believe in pulling punches when it comes to pain.
Anne, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. We've got to put this in a splint and we've got to straighten it, and it's going to hurt.
So this is meant to be a safe pastime. When they came, they said we can't get her out from here because I walked back. They couldn't find it for a start off. Then I walked back down the track, and when I started looking, I thought there's no way they can get her back down there because it's quite narrow and tight and steep and rubbly underneath. So it was either that way or a helicopter.
Right, try and relax, Anne. Relax. Deep breathe. Deep breathe. Suck off your eyes. That's it.
Just pull back on her knee for me.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to just lift up to it if you can, chick. Because it's on bad ground. I'm sorry.
All right, darling.
Just take that.
That's it. All right.
That's it.
Relax.
Just rest it down now, Anne. Let it go down. It's nice and straight.
But at least Anne's broken ankle is now straight again.
Nice easy pace, then we're not going to be tripping over each other's boots.
Since I've had a few accidents as well, we always take at least one mobile phone with us, She's just changed hers, so I took mine actually. But you know, you can't always get a signal, that's a problem. But she's had a previous fall on Burbage Edge. But we didn't call out the ambulance then, but we were told that we should have done, so this time we did, straight away.
Anne is well equipped and she's in good physical shape. Unlike some of the hikers, Helimed 99's match-fit crew is sometimes sent to help.
It's no good playing with him, his knees are shot.
Simply being unfit for the route you've chosen can make you a patient for an air ambulance. And if you don't know exactly where you are, help may never come.
If you are going to go off, do a route plan and know where you're going from and to, because we can always quickly search that route. People can get into areas where it's difficult for us to see them. Their clothing might blend in with the area that they're walking, they might be in a wooded area. But they feel that we're able to see them easy because we're trying to spot them from the air, but it's difficult. So it's best if they highlight with something where they are. That might be some form of reflective jacket that they could have in their rucksack that they could just pull out and be waving to attract our attention, make it a lot easier.
Today, Helimed 99 has been scrambled to rescue an injured rambler.
We're heading towards a place called Bishop Wilton. We're going for somebody who's got a fractured ankle. It's not life-threatening, it's just the fact that they're in the middle of nowhere. I believe the land crew have asked for help. They need help because they're on a steep embankment, and hopefully we'll be able to hover lift them over to the land ambulance.
So we should have ruffles starting coming out the murk.
Pilot Steve and paramedic Pat have to rely on their own eyesight to avoid other aircraft, and visibility is bad. But air traffic control are about to do them a big favour. Radar's picked up something on their flight path.
Look out for contact just left and you're 11 o'clock there. It might be spurious, it might be something. It appears to be southbound, slow moving, no height.
Right, that's it. No, for the visual tag. Glider and combination.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
That's not spurious.
Double. No, red and white. Good spot.
It was a near miss with a tow plane and glider, and Helimed 99's next objective won't be easy to see either.
They're either on the Minster Way or part of the North Wolds Walk. We know it's a group of walkers.
The Yorkshire Wolds is a big place, 400 square miles of rolling hills and thousands of footpaths.
Yeah, this is going to be a nightmare, isn't it, if we get some more information.
They've been looking for 5 minutes now and there's no sign of their patient.
See where the fun starts then?
Yeah. Hunting down for the job.
I think it's more likely to be down something. Is this Deepdale, this?
Yeah, that's Deepdale down there.
Helimed 99, I've just spoke to CRB driver. He said you were overhead. From where you are now, you need to go north and you should be able to see him over.
The land ambulance there, Steve, at 3 o'clock in the bushes.
Ah, yes.
At last, they've found their patient. Dorothy Hood was out walking on the Wolds Way long-distance footpath when she fell and twisted her ankle. She's in serious pain.
The lady's fallen over and she had a crack as she's gone over, so we're suspecting she has fractured her ankle, which it's a serious injury, but it's not life-threatening.
Dorothy and her husband watched Helimed 99 fly over them twice as the crew searched for their patient. But there's no hard feelings.
Not unexpectedly, I think, in this situation. It's nice to be able to get the helicopter down. That's main mooring. It is, yeah.
Right, now we're going to put some straps around you and then we'll carry you down to the aircraft.
That's nice one.
VIP treatment.
We're going to lift and move across to the other side of the village. There's a sports field with goalposts on. We're going to meet the land ambulance there and transfer the patient onto the land ambulance.
The locals are certainly interested in Dorothy's case.
Probably not got a chance to get travel sick.
No, I don't.
How do you feel about flying today?
Oh, wonderful.
You looking forward to it?
No.
Oh
dear, no, I'd rather not doing this.
Paramedic Pat Greekin's a big city ambulance man. But today, he's got to become a shepherd if Helimed 99 is ever to get off the ground.
We're coming back.
Dorothy has got a nasty broken ankle, but Helimed 99 is there to save lives. and the UK's strict flying laws don't allow them to land at city centre hospitals with minor injuries. So Dorothy is going to go by road. There's a new attraction at the village cricket pitch. Helimed 99 has just saved the local land ambulance crew a tricky mile-long hike carrying Dorothy to the nearest road.
You're welcome, Dorothy. Nice to have met you.
Dorothy and her friends had got it all right, but many don't, and walkers can't count on a rapid rescue, especially if the weather turns nasty.
You need to get a good rucksack, you need to get some supplies in there, you need hot drink, food, some good protective clothing. You might set off and it might be a nice fine day, but then it might in turn bad weather and you need some showerproof overcoat. Main thing is to keep yourself warm and to keep some safety stuff in there as well. If you do take medication, then get that in the bag.
And it can all go wrong on the most gentle stroll.
We're just going down to Brighouse in just south of Leeds to a crew request for a patient that's fallen in a wooded area. It's quite a common thing that they do, requesters for help in areas that are difficult for them to get people or vehicles to.
I just slept here and then my foot went under me.
The weather plays a part in a huge number of accidents, and 74-year-old Roy Hurst was out for a walk, something he does every day, when he just slipped and fell.
Will you guys give us a hand just to carry him back round? All right, great stuff.
The leaves that caught Roy out are now a dilemma for Lee and a growing band of stretcher bearers who have all come to help.
Yeah. Roy, you're going on a diet.
Didn't expect him to go in an air ambulance or an ambulance for that matter.
All the best, Roy. Holiday.
We'll probably see you up there.
See you later. Goodbye, love. Thanks very much, darling.
Feel sorry for him really, he's just come for a walk and this is how it ends up.
Within just a few minutes, Roy is landing at Huddersfield Royal Infirmary. I think it's fair to say he wasn't quite expecting his daily walk in the woods to end this way. And that goes for most walkers, even those who head for the hills for an adventure. The truth is that Yorkshire's rugged landscape has a habit of coming out on top.
And I'm pleased to say all those patients are now back on their feet with a new respect for the countryside. Now, let's catch up on Gemma and Ebony, the two girls badly injured in that nasty car crash in West Yorkshire.
A Saturday morning trip out has ended in disaster. A head-on smash between a van and a small hatchback. Ebony Clements was driving. She has severe facial injuries, skull fractures and deep cuts. In the back of the car, her friend 24-year-old Gemma Carver. Both girls are trapped, but are cut out of the wreckage by the fire crew. Ebony is taken by road to a waiting medical team to stitch up her facial wound and start reconstructive surgery. Gemma's condition is less certain. She is conscious, but worryingly has no feeling in her legs.
You wriggling your toes for me, Gemma?
I'm wiggling them.
You're wiggling them all right, thank you.
Helimed 98 flies her to the spinal injuries unit at the Leeds General Infirmary for specialists to find out the extent of the damage.
Cold in a minute, Gemma.
2 months on, and Gemma has been transferred from Leeds to a home hospital in Middlesbrough. The tests on Gemma's back revealed her spinal cord had been damaged. The loss of movement in her legs is permanent. This machine is doing what she can't. A massive impact that lasted just a couple of seconds means it's unlikely that she will walk again.
It's just giving your legs like a good stretch. That's all, as you know, with them just being in one position all the time, like when you're in the chair or on the bed. So this just gets them moving, like how you know you would be able to move them before.
With a lot of help from medical staff and family, Gemma remains positive and optimistic.
I was quite bad for a couple of weeks, like upset and crying and things, but now I've got past that stage. You just have to get on with it, don't you? There's nothing you can do. can sink or swim. I'm exactly the same person as I was before. Just in a wheelchair now.
Gemma's friend Ebony, who was driving the car, suffered serious facial injuries.
I don't really want to have to intubate at the roadside because it's potentially a difficult airway.
Yeah.
And she's
The surgery to reconstruct her face started as soon as she got to hospital.
My face was open from the top to the tip of my nose, and all the skin was over here.
There's still a little bit more to do.
The skill of surgeon Kanak Patel has put Ebony's face back together.
You've obviously hit something here, and something quite sharp, because that's cut the skin up to your nose.
Outwardly, she's made a remarkable recovery.
You see scars, you see cuts, and for me, I knew that I could get those skin edges together. What was more worrying to me was what was underneath.
But he's aware that there's more at stake here than just Ebony's physical injuries.
I did know that there were other members of your family in the car, and that's obviously very traumatic to you. And I dare say, and perhaps because you were driving, you may feel responsible, but that's not, that's not necessarily the case. All right.
Gemma has had a long time to think about the accident, the morning of the crash, and how it happened. And she doesn't blame her friend Ebony.
I don't obviously blame her for the accident. She didn't know what was going to happen. Even though it's something as serious as this, the type of person I am, I can't stay angry with anybody. So no matter what they've done, even though because of the accident I'm like this now.
The skillful hands that have helped reconstruct Ebony still have work to do, but much of it now is to help with the psychological trauma of the crash.
This is a very severe injury to go through for anybody, and she will suffer with flashbacks and feelings of guilt and all sorts of things that she'll have to deal with. More so than her physical injuries, which is going to take a long time.
I don't think for 1 minute that the accident was my fault, but you've always got to take responsibility for the lives that are in your car. Trying to work out what I can do to make it better, and they keep telling me that the only thing I can do is get better. I'd swap with her in a minute, because what I've got is nothing compared to what she's going to be going through.
Gemma continues to work hard. She wants to get a job, her own house, to be independent. And her doctors say with her positive attitude she will continue to make slow but steady progress.
I've been quite lucky because there is a lot of people a lot worse off than me. Yeah, it's horrible having to live like this sort of thing at the moment, but I'll come round to it because I know there is people that are a lot worse off.